What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Math with Mr. G. Those of you that subscribed to the channel as soon as it came out, again, I do want to apologize for this extended absence. As I explained to you in class, there were some issues with my laptop that appear to have been fixed. So hopefully, in the near future, we won't be having this problem again. Unfortunately, this is not the grandest of circumstances given what's going on. But again, hopefully this channel is in one way, shape, or form some support so that you can continue your review at home. Depending on how many lessons we've covered since the last video that I posted, you might be seeing this intro repeatedly. If there's only been one lesson, you're only going to see this once. If there's been more, well, I'm just going to use the same in the interest of saving memory. So I don't want to apologize ahead of time for that. But without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, algebra students. Since our last video, the only section that we've covered is inequalities. However, this lesson is broken down into two different components. So let's dissect this lesson one at a time. First and foremost, what exactly is an inequality? Your textbook defines an inequality as a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. That might sound a little technical, but let's try to simplify that if possible. An inequality is a sentence or statement, rather, that uses one of the following four signs. These signs might look familiar. Let's go over what each one means. This symbol right here is less than. This one is greater than. And the next two might be a little tricky at first, but bear with me. This third one, less than or equal to. And the last one, greater than or equal to. So what exactly does that mean? It can have several practical uses, but before we get there, let's look at some examples. You may have the chart in your notebook that we did together in class. If you do not, feel free to send me an email. I will be more than happy to type one out for you or direct you to a link where you can find one for yourself. Again, let's look at some examples from your book. Let's say, for example, you have a problem that reads a number x is greater than 3. In this particular example, you are looking at a sentence with words. You want to translate that into a numerical expression or a mathematical sentence, whichever you want to look at it. And again, by the definition provided by your book, an inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. In this particular case, you are comparing a number x and you are comparing 3. So let's start off with that. You have x and you have 3. The only thing that you're missing is going to be the symbol that goes in the middle. If you refer back to your chart, you are able to identify the key words that are associated with a particular symbol. In this particular case, you have greater than. A number x is greater than 3, so what you're going to want to do in your circle in the middle, you're going to have a greater than sign. Now, for our purposes, that circle is only going to be there perhaps on an exam or on a worksheet that's been generated online. If you are working out of your textbook and you are simply converting that sentence, you do not need that circle, simply put the symbol in between. X is greater than 3. If it helped you remember, if you think about this as an arrow, if you will, let's use a different color. The larger number is going to be pointing at the smaller one. If that's more confusing, forget I just said that. Let's try another example. Let's say you have, for example, 3 times a number W is less than 18. Again, in inequality, you are comparing 3 times a number W with 18. Recall, 3 times a number simply translates to 3 times W, or just 3W, and 18. Again, you want to identify the key words from your chart. Less than, so 3 times W is less than 18, meaning you want the less than symbol, or from our previous example, you want the imaginary arrow pointing at the smaller quantity, in this case 3W. Now let's look at the other two symbols that might be a little bit confusing, but hopefully they will make sense as we move on. Let's say you have, for example, 13 is at least the difference of a number V and 1. If that V looks confusing to you, it is in cursive. I do apologize. Just bear with me here. 13 is at least the difference of a number V and 1. So let's go by parts. Again, you have 13 and you have the difference of a number V and 1. So let's go ahead and set that up. 13, and you have V and 1. Again, quick review. Whenever you see the word difference in mathematics, that simply means to subtract. The difference of a number V and 1. Now notice here, we do not see the words greater than or less than. Now we see at least. What does that mean? This information is going to be on your chart, but for future reference, especially in word problems, it might be a good idea to try to understand that simply from a comprehension standpoint. When you're thinking of the word at least, what that translates to is this is a bare minimum. It could be more. For example, if you want to go, and this is not a commercial, but let's say you want to go to Starbucks, right? At the very least, you might want to take $5. Why? Because, let's face it, Starbucks is pretty pricey. If you take $1, $2, maybe $3, it's probably not enough. You want to take at least 5, but you can probably take more. That symbol would be greater than or equal to. That example makes sense in my head. I do not have enough board space, so hopefully it makes sense to you. If it doesn't, as we move on, we'll be utilizing more examples. But again, whenever you see the word at least, the symbol that you want to use is greater than or equal to, because at least signifies that is a bare minimum, that is a requirement, but it can always be more. So what will be the difference or the inverse of that? Let's take a look at it. What if instead your problem reads "15 is no more than a number t divided by 5. Once again, you are now comparing 15 and a number t divided by 5. So let's translate that. You have 15, and then you have a number t divided by 5. This time, the key word is 15 is no more. 15 is no more means that at the most, it is 15. It could be less, but at the very most, the maximum that it could be is 15. So that means 15 is less than or equal to.